This is Can You Relate with Christine, but it's less can you relate and more can you relate with Christine. Let's talk about hustling for your dreams. Or not necessarily your dreams, just a vision or a goal that you have for yourself and just working towards it. For years, I have heard in different words, through different interpretations, people highlighting the fact that if you want to achieve something, if you have a dream for yourself, you need to struggle. Otherwise, you have not earned it. If you don't struggle for something, have you not earned it? Now, I don't believe that. I don't believe that you need to struggle for something. You definitely need to work towards something. There definitely is a learning curve, but it does not have to be the entire world conspiring against you. That sounds unnecessarily difficult. That sounds like forcing something when all the odds are against you. Now, when I say when all odds are stacked against you, it's as if you're teaching a fish to climb a tree. The odds are stacked against the fish. That is what I mean. It's not teaching a bear cub how to climb a tree. There's a learning curve. They will eventually be able to climb the tree because, I don't know, they have the anatomy for it, whatever. Very weird tangent. But coming back to the point, I do not believe that you need to struggle to get what you want. There definitely is a learning curve. You definitely need to put work, time, energy, and resources into it if you're trying to create something new or if you're trying to develop something. But I just don't resonate with calling it a struggle, because what I hear when people talk about I struggle to get to where I am is that they were broke, they worked 3, 4, 5 jobs, they worked 20 hours a day, they were homeless, or they were living in their car. A lot of success stories that I've been hearing over the last few years, this definition of struggle is just that they're broke, that they're working multiple jobs, literally burning themselves out, and they were homeless or living in their car, or they're just crashing on someone's couch. As if these 3 things are mandatory for you to achieve success. Because if you haven't achieved at least one, if not all 3 of these things, then you haven't earned your success. Now, that doesn't sit right with me, because do I need to go broke? Do I need to be sleeping on someone's couch or sleeping in my car? Do I need to sell my car and just have complete and utter faith that the universe will work itself out, even though I don't know where I'm going to be sleeping tonight? That does not make sense to me. Now, there definitely is a lot more information, a lot more context that is missing in those stories. What people tend to do is they just give you the highlights, or they give you the most difficult part of their journey just so that you are impressed by how much they've overcome. Yes, anyone who puts in the effort, the time, the energy to overcome a difficulty is fucking impressive, but it's not a competition. The only person you're ever truly competing with is yourself, where you are and where you want to be. And because this definition of struggle has been ingrained in my mind, it almost feels like I'm going against myself when I say that I don't believe that I need to struggle. I believe that yes, there's a learning curve. Yes, I need to put the work in, because you're always learning. You're never just, you learn something and then it's one and done. You're always going to be learning. If you want to grow, if you want to evolve, you are always going to be transitioning from one learning curve to the next. But that's besides the point. So I would be putting the work in. I would be shifting from one learning curve to the next. But I still would not feel like I have earned it. Like I have earned some sort of achievement, whatever it is. Because I did not do the 3 things that society or people or specific successful people claimed is the prerequisite to success. So I've noticed this internal battle in my mind where one part of me has this conditioned belief that you need to struggle to really ever achieve anything of substance. But this other part of me sees it as, okay, if you have a dream, if you have a goal, if you have a vision for yourself, you naturally have to put the work in. There is a learning curve. But as long as you show up, you do the best you can, whatever that looks like, then you are earning it every single fucking day. And the way you put the work in, it's different than the way other people put the work in. Now, this part of me understands this or has understood this on a mental level, but because the conditioned part of me has been conditioned for decades, it's basically in my DNA, that it almost feels unnatural for me to say, I'm just putting the work in. Of course, it's of substance. My work is mine. My effort is mine. My learning curve is mine and no one else's. So it kind of feels counterintuitive. It feels unnatural that I have these two conflicting voices in my mind. It's kind of like a tug of war, but at the same time, I can tell which one is true. And how I can tell that is by the feeling that it evokes in me. One, the conditioned part, when this speaks, I feel constricted. I feel suffocated. I feel like the walls are closing in on me. The other, the part of me that says, no, my journey is my own. My struggles are my own, and they look a certain way, and this way is unique and specific to me. Now, this part of me, this voice, feels more freeing. There's much more relief when I listen to this voice. It feels more expansive. It feels more like it's encouraging freedom. Freedom of just being, freedom of just pursuing what I want to do for the sake of doing it. Which feeling would you want to go for? Which feeling would you want to pursue? Which feeling would you rather dictate your decisions? Something that feels heavy, like the walls are closing in on you. Something that feels light, like a breath of fresh air that just feels like a relief. And this is how I know my truth. What feels good, what feels like relief. With every decision, with every thought and behavior pattern, I am making a conscious decision to reach for relief rather than to reach for the redundant, conditioned, ingrained beliefs that are not my own, that have been passed down to me. Do you need to struggle to achieve anything of substance? Yes? No? Maybe. But who determines what that struggle looks like? What that hustle looks like? I used to think that I need to be working on my craft or creating constantly, like 24 hours a day to be creating, to be doing something towards that goal or that dream or that vision that I have for myself. And if I take even 30 minutes just for myself, I felt like I was falling behind. I felt guilty. I felt like I'm doing something wrong, that I'm never going to be able to catch up to that dream, that it's going to pass me by. But no, it's my dream. It's mine to create on my timeline. So what I ended up doing is the exact opposite, kind of like a revenge mechanism, you can call it, where I took too much time. I was too slow. I was too chill about things. Because when you're operating from one extreme, naturally you're going to go to the other end of the extreme. But in my experience, this might not be the case for you, but I've learned in my experience that when I do so, when I'm operating from one extreme, I do need to go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, because it isn't until I do so that I can find a middle ground, that I can take the best from each side, take what works, take what resonates, leave what doesn't work, leave what doesn't resonate, and create a version of it that suits me, that serves me in the best and highest way. The body, the mind, the spirit, It finds a way. Nature finds a way. Life finds a way to bring harmony into everything that you do, into everything that you allow it. You just have to get out of the way. It's definitely easier said than done. I don't even know how to get out of my own way. It's something that I just do, I just figure out on the way. And the way that I get out of my own way now is definitely not the same that I did last week. It's definitely not going to be the same as next week or next month. But the common denominator in all the times that I have gotten out of my own way is looking for that feeling, is using my emotions as my compass, as my North Star. What feels good, what doesn't feel good. And doing the best I can to reach towards the better feeling emotions in my experiences. And it's not always going from 0 to 100 real quick. No, sometimes if I'm feeling horrible, I can't go from horrible to ecstatic, just like that. I need to go from horrible to slightly less horrible, to neutral, to slightly optimistic, on the way to overjoyed or ecstatic or enthusiastic or whatever it may be. Now, what works for me and what works with my coaching clients is using a scale of 1 to 10. So when I'm making a decision or when I'm having a thought, how I'm going to gauge my emotions on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is not so good feeling. 10 is great feeling. Now you can call it anything else. 1 could be horrible, devastated, disappointed. 10 could be ecstatic, overjoyed. Whatever you want to call it, it does not matter. It's the sentiment that counts. So whatever I'm experiencing on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is not so good feeling, 10 is great feeling. I may be in this moment with a specific experience at a 4. I would like to get to an 8, but you can't jump from 4 to 8. Realistically, you can go from 4 to 5 or even 6. It's a baby step. You need to walk before you run. Sometimes you need to crawl before you walk, before you run. So what can I do to move from a 4 to a 5? To shift my baseline from a 4 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. Because once I'm able to shift my baseline, my vantage point changes. Once my vantage point changes, everything changes. So now taking these 2 points that I talked about, 1 being the struggle, hustle, whatever you want to call it, and 2 being gauging how you feel about a specific situation or experience or thought or behavior. You're going to take these 2 things and combine them together. And I'm going to do that by sharing an example. So when I was first starting work on this podcast, when I was figuring out how to record, how to edit, what equipment I needed, because it's unfamiliar to me. I don't know these things. I don't understand technology and cameras and microphones, all of these things. And I didn't want to purchase something and turns out it's a ripoff or I overpay for something. So this technical part of preparing a podcast, it felt very difficult to me. On one hand, the one voice in my mind was saying, it's okay, this is part of the struggle. If you haven't struggled, then you haven't earned it. But then I wouldn't be happy with what that voice was saying because it felt like, well, why do I have to struggle? I don't understand. Why do I have to struggle? Why can't it be easy? Why can't it be simple? Why can't it be to the point? Just direct, clear cut. Why do I have to struggle? Why is struggle an absolute truth towards achieving anything? Small, medium, big, whatever that goal may be, it does not matter. Why is struggle necessary? Inevitable. I refuse that. So that was a very difficult internal conversation going on in my mind. That felt like a 1 out of 10. And on the spot, I had decided, well, not just one time where it was on the spot, I decided that I don't want to do the podcast. It was multiple times, multiple spots on which I decided that I'm going to just not even pursue this project or this goal or this vision that I have for myself, because things were difficult, because they felt unnecessarily difficult, because it was too much of a struggle. What's a struggle? I don't understand cameras and microphones. Okay, do a little bit of research, make an attempt to understand them, and then you can make an informed decision. It's not the end of the world. So when this more expansive voice in my mind that is looking for a bit of relief, when this voice started speaking, it started saying these things. It started saying, this is not your area of expertise. You're not expected to know this. No one's expecting you to understand these things. So why are you being so hard on yourself? If you don't know, then you can Google it. You can ask someone who knows. You can bridge that gap in knowledge, and you can get more information, and then you can make an informed decision. Then, once you have all that information, if you choose to not proceed with the podcast, okay, fine, it's an informed decision. But you owe it to yourself to choose what to do, not to decide something out of lack of choice or out of lack of knowledge. It's just a learning curve. This voice felt better to listen to. It felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt, okay. So I chose to listen to this voice, because this voice took my emotional experience from a 1 to a 4. That's good. I felt better. I decided, okay, I'm going to learn a bit more about the cameras, about the microphones, about all of these things. It's a learning curve. I did my research through trial and error. I worked with what was in front of me, and I just continue to do that now. I don't claim to know everything there is about cameras and microphones. I'm always learning, but it's not something that is going to be make or break for me. It's a learning curve. We're always transitioning from one learning curve to the next. If you're choosing to grow and evolve and move forward, obviously, if you choose to just stay where you are without making any progress, I don't know how your learning curves are going, to each their own. But for me, as someone who enjoys constantly moving forward, growing, evolving, creating, I have accepted that I'm always going to be transitioning from one learning curve to the next. I have accepted that I am going to constantly be embracing a beginner's mindset, and that I'm constantly going to be faced with not struggle. I refuse to use that word. I reject that word because it's unnecessary. I don't believe in struggling to achieve something, in struggling to earn something. We all deserve the entire world, but the way in which you earn what you deserve differs from one person to the next. Your struggle, that's what you want to call it, that's what you want to call the journey to earning what you deserve, looks a certain way. And that way works for you. My journey, my learning curve, my aligned actions look different. They feel different for me. And they are unique to me, to my experience, to whatever it is that I am trying to create. What I do might work for you, might not work for you, might inspire something or a derivative that might work for you. But who knows? What works for you might inspire me to come up with my own version of it. Who knows? But to each their own. To each their own journey, to each their own learning curves, to each their own anything in life. Because your life is your own. Your life experience, your human experience, your emotional experiences are subjective to you and only you. No one gets to dictate how you think, how you feel, what you do, unless you allow them to. So that said, assuming you're no longer allowing them to, then you have full control over your life. Now, Is that intimidating or is that freeing? Sophie's choice. That's what it is. And on that note, if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, comment, subscribe, follow, all of those things, because it really supports the podcast and pushes the content out. And on that note, times 2, I will see you next time.